Hey everyone, Wildman here, just taking a quick minute before the show begins to ask for your help. Would you be willing to go to thespinawards.com/vote and vote for the Wildman and Steve Show? We were nominated in 4 categories: Best Radio Show of the Year, 2 or more hosts, Blog Talk Speaker Radio Broadcast of the Year, Blog Talk Speaker Radio Host of the Year, and Podcast of the Year. The Spin Awards and our show share a passion for sharing the gospel, so any way we can draw more attention to our show so others can hear about Jesus, the better. Take a moment and vote for us at thespinawards.com/vote. Thank you very much, and now for this week's episode.
You are about to listen to the intersection of faith, talk, and music. The Wildman and Steve Show starts right now.
All right, so Steve, I want to just put you on the spot again, as we've been experimenting over and over, talking about what's the best way to open a show, and what's the best way to open a podcast, and all that stuff. But do you, by any chance, remember the first guest on this show?
The first guest on this show?
The first guest on, you're already playing semantics. I can tell by repeating that question back. I can tell already you're doing that. Yeah.
The first guest on the Wildman Steve Show would have been Rex Carroll.
Yes, that's true. But let's put it this way. The first guest on this podcast before it changed names a couple times.
Then that would be I. I was the first.
You are so arrogant, but that's fine. If you think it's all about you, that's fine. But do you remember that? Do you remember when that was?
Oh, wow. That was back in late 2019.
Yeah, December 2019.
Yeah.
I asked you to be on a show. I didn't even know who you were. And ever since then, I've just been stuck with you.
That's so long ago, too. 2019, man.
Oh,
that's going back a ways.
We talk about BC, before Christ. This is before pandemic. So,
it makes us feel so old when we talk like that. You know what I mean? So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, now is the part of the show where I turn it over to the first guest on this show several years ago. And Steve is known to all of our fans and followers as Mr. Segue. He always gives us a great segue to introduce the guests that we have. I'm on the edge of my seat. Everybody else is on the edge of their seat to hear the Latin teacher, rock and metal enthusiast introduce our guest tonight.
I just want to talk about the weather. All right, it's springtime. It's exciting, and flowers are growing, and it's like the sun is just coming out. It's almost like a bomb. You know what I'm saying? It's like a sun bomb at this time of year, and I just love that. I think that it's so cool that every year we get a sun bomb.
Now, you put the emphasis on bomb. That's not necessarily a good thing when we're interviewing a new album.
That
could be a bad thing.
Yeah, let me apologize.
Blowing up the charts, man.
I just want to apologize to our listeners. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve has been more creative than what he just did, but that was a good try. That was a good job, Steve. I appreciate it. You found a way to say sun and bomb in the same sentence. So, great job.
Have you heard the running working title that was a joke that the band was supposed to be called? Do you know what that is prior to Sunbomb?
No.
You don't? Really? You have no idea? Think about it for a minute. Tracy Guns and me.
Sweet Guns.
No. Guns and Moses.
There you go.
We've been talking about that, and we thought, that would have been a much more brilliant name, to be honest.
Yeah.
Oh, Guns and Moses.
Well,
I love it.
ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome to the show tonight Michael Sweet, who of course is from Stryper, has a lot of his own solo stuff out, and as we've already talked about, has this new Sunbomb out, and we're going to be getting into that. So, Michael, tell us how you're doing tonight.
I'm doing well. I mean, I've been I spent a long time in lockdown mode and in quarantine, whatever you want to call it, here at home in this very room. A lot of time. More time than I would prefer, to be honest with you. But during that time, I was very fortunate and blessed to be able to record. And I've been recording a lot. I've been working on a lot of projects. The first one that during the pandemic that started was the Stryper album. So we started recording that right at the start of the pandemic. And then I was doing vocals during the pandemic. So that was my first taste of lockdown mode. And it was a bit odd. Here I am trying to record this happy album and, full of inspiration and whatnot lyrically. And here we are, practically wearing masks inside and, fearful and wondering what the heck is going to happen to this world. And, but anyway, it started there. And then I moved right from that into the Sunbomb album. And I finished that, recorded that, which was long overdue. And then I moved right from that in typical Michael Sweet style. My wife wanted to kill me. And I started at Christmas time writing the new inspirational / worship album.
Yes.
And hooked up with Jeff Savage, and I wrote 12 songs like in maybe 10 days, kept sending them to him like a machine gun. Here they come. And we've just finished it. And we're talking to labels right now about that. And then right after that, I started the Joel Hoekstra and Nathan James album with Frontiers. And I turned that in. So it's been crazy. And I'm starting on a new album with Alessandro right now. It's going to be a little more like Journey meets Toto. And it's just been a blur, man. I don't even know what to say. My head's kind of spinning, but in a really, really great way.
Well, that's great that there's been the positive things happening during COVID, and you've had the opportunity to do that. Tell us about what is that like compared to what you had been doing in the past, or even going back to even in the 80s with Stryper. How does it compare with all the writing and work that studio work you're doing now? How does that compare to what you used to be doing?
Well, it's funny because I always said when I was younger, when I get older, that's what I want to do. I want to stay home and write and record. That's what I've been doing for the last year and a half. And I'll tell you, I miss touring. When I'm touring, I miss recording. When I'm recording, I miss touring. And it's just this thing that's within maybe all musicians. I don't know. Certainly within myself, it runs deep that I enjoy both. There are different things about it, and it's nice to get a break from each. When I'm out on the road for 6 weeks, it's nice to come home and stay home and record. When I'm recording, it's nice to break away when that's done and go out and tour. And it just kind of breaks the mold and the cycle, and it recharges me, believe it or not, even though I'm continually working. But this time around for the last year and a half, it's just been recording. So it's forced me in a good way to just get it done. And the pressure's been high, man, for sure. You got to deliver. There's no fooling around, man. You got a certain date to turn an album in, you better turn it in. And you don't want to be that guy. So I've been working my butt off, working on projects, but man, I've been smiling through it all, having a blast, getting to do what I love to do. And I haven't yet had to apply it, CVS or Home Depot. Not that that's anything wrong with that. I haven't had to do that yet.
Yeah. Well, I actually put together a list of just some of the people you've been working with over the last few years. I'm looking at George Lynch, Brian Tishy, James Lomenzo, Joel Hoekstra, Ethan Brosh, Jeff Lewis, Doug Aldrich. Now you got, Tracy Guns. The collaboration that you're doing and have been doing over the last few years, to me, is phenomenal. And to see all these artists working together, doing these different kinds of projects and so forth, do you see the collaboration being different than back in the day? Maybe everybody was just kind of in their own band, and maybe you might play it at the same gig together, but you really weren't maybe working on albums together. Has that changed more? Do you see more collaboration now?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's changed a lot more for multiple reasons. I think mostly because back then we were touring nonstop. And all those bands, LA Guns or, any band you name from that time, we were out on the road, for 6 months, 8 months, 10 months at a time. We'd go out for 2 months, come home for a week, go out for another 2 or 3 months. It was insane. So I don't think there was as much time to record. And when there was, it was focused on the band you were in. Okay, we've been touring for a year and a half, time to make another Stryper album. And that was it. Didn't really have time to do much else. But nowadays, because there is less touring for most bands, especially those bands at our level, there's a little less touring. And it's with technology, we're able to make more music because, everyone has a studio at their house. And you can do things remotely and pass things around through the computer. And it's a lot easier to get things done than it was. Back in the old days, you had to go into a studio at $2,000 to $3,000 a day per studio, which, you couldn't afford it, or you didn't have the time to do it, or you couldn't make it happen in your schedule because you had to drive 45 minutes or an hour to a really nice studio. These days, it's a lot easier and accessible to make music. And I think that's part of the reason. And, we all respect each other. When I meet Tracy Guns and I see him in person, I hang out at an LA Gun show and we're hanging out and I say to him, dude, you're awesome. He says, man, I love your voice. You're awesome. I say, well, let's do something together then, and he says, done, let's do it. There's a lot more of that going on nowadays, which is really cool.
Just stay on that for a second. I also wonder too, it's life and maturity. I think when Deep Purple started to break up and Richie was already had thoughts of what was going to become Rainbow and he already kind of had one foot out the door. Richie wouldn't have done a project with somebody else while still in Deep Purple. People go, oh wow, it's going to be a whole new thing, and he's leaving Purple or whatever.
Right.
Do you think also that it's now maybe some of the egos of the other players and so forth, kind of, hey, you know what? It's not just about my band, but I really want to work with these other musicians. Do you think that's also part of the factor there?
It could be. I never really thought of it that way, but it could be. I'll be honest with you. I didn't think or don't think about, oh man, do I come across like I have an ego because I want to go work with Tracy Guns, or is that wrong to do to the other guys? I don't really think about that because I feel like I devote most of my time to Stryper, and I think that shows when it comes to social media posts, when it comes to, it's all, Stryper's always the priority. Let's face it. And this seals the deal. I left Boston to focus on Stryper. So if that doesn't prove or back up what I'm saying, I don't know what else does. Yeah. People thought I was nuts for leaving Boston. But I did. And the reason why I did was because I felt like it was going to start taking away from my time with Stryper, and I would put Stryper more on a shelf, and I didn't want to do that. So I feel like I've kind of figured out a good way of balancing everything. We did Stryper. You can only do an album every so many years. You don't want to churn them out so much so because then you become, it can become recycled and you can burn out and burn the fans out. So Stryper does one every few years. And then in between that time, I do a solo album. And then in between those two things, I do a Sweet and Lynch album or a Tracy Guns album. I try not to spread myself too thin. Some artists do. When you're on a project every 2 months, although, gosh, I'm being a hypocrite right now because I am lately. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that so much so that you're spreading yourself too thin and it just becomes recycled and not good. I want to make sure everything that I do is worthy of, I want the fans to like it. I want all the people to get it and go, wow, this sounds great. Not, oh man, it sounds like they really threw this together, or it's not as good as it could have been. I don't want to make an album like that ever. So I try not to do that.
So Sunbomb, I've been listening to it and I love it. I love the Sunbomb album. Certain things I love about it, of course, is your vocals, obviously, and Tracy's playing, and his neoclassical melody style on a couple of the songs are just great with the lead guitar parts. So tell us how that came to be. We know you've done it with Sweet and Lynch, and we know you're doing it with others. It's just always intriguing for fans to know, how did you guys connect and how did it happen? And if you could maybe help us out and just tell us, where did the name come from? If it's not Guns and Moses, where did Sunbomb come from, right?
Well, going backwards just a bit, it started with the Sweet and Lynch thing. That came about because Serafino emailed me. He's the president of Frontiers Records. Mm-hmm. He emailed me and said, I want you to be a part of a project, a super group. I'm looking for kind of a Dawkins style meets Stryper kind of thing. And I'm talking to John Levin. John Levin plays with Don Dokken right now in that version of Dokken, or actually the only version of Dokken right now. And I very politely said to him, well, if you want that kind of thing, why don't you just get the original guy, George? And he said, do you know him? I said, yeah. I emailed George, reached out to him, and George said, yeah, let's do it. It was as simple as that. And it just all came about and happened. With Tracy Guns, he started working on a project with Serafino that I think was originally supposed to be a solo project. And it turned into more of a super group project. And he sent me a song. I was in Michael's craft store with Lisa, my wife, I think around Halloween. And my phone went boop, and I looked, and it was a song from Tracy. And I listened to it. I'm like, oh, wow, this is heavy. And I responded. I said, yeah, that's cool. And he goes, you want to sing it? And I said, sure, not knowing he meant the whole album. I thought he just meant one song. And then we went back and forth, and I said, you want me to sing the whole album? And that's when I started thinking, like, oh, gosh, do I have time? Can I make that work? And we were able to make it work. It took a while, but we were able to make it work. He got it finished. I eventually got to the vocals when I could. and I got the vocals done and turned it in, and it worked out really great. And I'm honored that he asked me to do it, because I think he had originally, he was working with or talking to the guy that plays bass in Whitesnake. His name is Michael Devin.
Michael Devin, yeah. Michael Devin.
Yeah, and he's a great singer, great bass player. And I think he was going to be the original guy, and that didn't work out. And then he wound up talking to me, and that was all brought together because Tracy and I met. He came up and jammed with us at the Whiskey, and we developed a friendship, and we respect each other. And there's that mutual respect that runs deep that says, hey, wow, I want to work with this guy. It'd be cool. And it would be out of my wheelhouse, but it'd be cool. And that's exactly what we did. And here we are with an album. It's hard to believe that it's here, but it is. And, the response, I think anything I'm a part of, it's always going to be a love-hate thing. Even Stryper, even when I do Stryper. There are a lot of people that love it. We have a really good, strong fan base, but then there are those people that say, "Oh man, I hate it because his voice sucks. I can't listen to his voice," and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I've kind of learned to accept that. But the thing that helps me to move on from comments like that is all these gold and platinum albums hanging on the wall. It's like, what have they done? What are they doing?
Yeah.
I have no idea. And I say that humbly, not cocky, but my point is, it doesn't matter. The haters and the negative comments, it really doesn't matter when you get down to the nitty gritty. What matters is there's a lot of fans out there that are supportive and always there. And that's why I do what I do with any project. It's really cool.
So you mentioned your voice and people's reactions to your voice. We both love your voice. We're huge Stryper fans. We're huge Michael Sweet solo fans. But I got to say, when I'm listening to you on the Sunbomb, there's a lot of screams. There's a lot of screaming going on this new album, The Evil Divine. But it's a different kind of scream from the '80s, and there's people who like one, don't like the other, like them both. I'm somebody who likes them both. I love the '80s screams. I love the through the stratosphere, the high notes. I think that's great. But what you got going on right now, to me, it's rich, it's full, and it just feels well supported. Really
Thanks,
kind of from the diaphragm, just really, really strong. What do you do to keep your voice strong? Obviously, singing helps. just keep recording and so forth. But do you do anything else in particular to really keep your voice in such great shape? Because let's be honest, not everybody from the 70s and 80s is still able to put it out here in the 21st century the way you do.
Well, I don't really. I try to take care of myself. I love to eat like everyone else. I could weigh 250 pounds or 300 pounds real easy. But I try not to let myself get to that point. I try to take care of myself and exercise. And I don't overdo anything that I do. So if I smoke a cigar, I don't smoke 10 of them every day. I'll smoke one every 6 months or every year. I do everything in moderation. And I think that's helped me. instead of just doing lots of this and lots of that. I try to sing properly. I had some coaching when I was young. My parents are singers. I've trained. I've met with doctors and had my voice scoped more times than you could imagine, thinking that I had nodes or nodules when I had some rough times out on tour. And I've never had nodes or nodules. I've never needed surgery or required surgery. The doctor said my vocal cords looked like the vocal cords of a 21-year-old. That's a quote. That's what the doctor told me. The only thing that's happened with my cords is, as with anyone that ages, is they start to stiffen a little bit. Mm-hmm. And when your vocal folds start to stiffen, it can affect your range and give you a little bit more trouble with range. And that's what I'm noticing with myself. Just my range isn't quite what it used to be. But I mean, let's face it, my range was pretty high, back in the 80s. Higher than most male singers, and it was really, really up there. So I don't look at that as a bad thing, that my voice has deepened a little bit and aged a bit, but I feel like I'm still able to use it to the best of my ability and take advantage of that. And it works for everything that I'm doing. But again, it's an acquired taste. I mean, some people might describe my voice as, Dennis DeYoung sticking his finger in a wall socket, maybe that's true. There are Dennis DeYoung qualities to my voice, and I've never tried to sound like Dennis. I mean, I love Styx, but I never sang to a Styx album when I was growing up. I never tried to, sound like Dennis ever. It's just a natural similarity in my tone and my vibrato, especially back in the 80s, more so back then. But, man, I just do me. I don't try. I'll never forget when we did Second Coming and I was singing all those songs, Maiden, Priest. The thought that went through my head with every song was, okay, I got to sound like Ronnie James Dio. Mm-hmm. Now I got to sound like Bruce Dickinson. And I was struggling with that, saying, gosh, I don't sound anything like these guys, nor will I ever. And then I realized, like, why would I want to? And that's with all due respect to them. Those are some of my favorite singers in the history of music. But I'm me. They're them. And I want to be me. I don't want to be something that I'm not or pretend to be something that I'm not. I just want to sing like Michael Sweet. And if I have little flavors of this guy or that guy, that's just because that's just a God-given thing. I can't help it.
Well, the originality of that is what I think people appreciate. I think your fans appreciate that as well, because one of the things that I've always gone back to is that when you listen to Stryper versus all the other metal bands that were big, you definitely had a unique sound in comparison. Because we interview a lot of Christian rock guys, and the stigma always has been, and your book even alluded to this. The stigma was always, hey, get this album, they sound just like so and so, But you really couldn't do that with Stryper. Stryper sounded like Stryper. It wasn't like they were copying somebody else's sound.
No, well, we never did, ever. And I mean, there were influences. Like, I've always been a Steve Perry fan and a Rob Halford fan. And I think from time to time, you might hear a little bit of that, especially on the old stuff. I was always a Boston fan, and you can kind of hear a little bit of the Boston tone in our guitar tone. It's that preamping of the front end of an amp and EQing it with that mid-range. And, you're going to hear those flavors throughout, but at the same time, Stryper is very unique. We have our own sound. Love it or hate it, we have our own unique sound. And the minute you hear this, even the Stryper guitar tone, I'm pretty sure that's Stryper, because no one has a guitar tone like that. And same thing with my voice. It's like I've got my own unique thing in sound. Robert has his own unique style.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Robert's one of those guys that's always playing, pretty much throwing in fills throughout the entire song. But that's his style. And that's what gives it that Stryper energy and that, wow, that's cool. Who's that? So it's very unique, and we definitely have our own thing. And I used to get frustrated with a lot of the Christian bands of the past because most of them, not all of them, but most of them sounded almost identical to a lot of the bands that were already big and successful. And I could never understand that. I thought that's just weird. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And I realized it was a marketing ploy. Christian labels wanted bands that sounded like AC/DC or like Iron Maiden or this and that, so they could sell records. And I don't think there was a sticker on our album. I could be wrong, but I don't think there was a sticker on our album that said, buy this album. They sound exactly like Styx, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure not. But if you went and bought a Barren Cross album, sure enough, if you like Iron Maiden, you go buy, oh gosh, what was the band that sounded just like AC/DC back in the day?
X Center.
Yes, X Center. It actually said, if you like AC/DC. It just went on and on and on. There were a few bands that I think did have a really original sound. Bloodgood was one of them. Yeah. I always thought Bloodgood didn't really sound like anybody else. And that was primarily because of Les's voice. Les has a very unusual voice too, very cool voice, great voice. I love Les, but he really helped define that band.
By the way, I don't know if either of you guys saw this, but Les just put out, I think on Instagram and Twitter, or Instagram and Facebook just the other day. It's like 15 seconds of him in the car. I guess his wife's taping it or something, of him singing along with a Stryper song.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's singing along and he goes, he's like, I love me some Stryper. You gotta go check it out. It's cool.
You know what? Les waves the Stryper flag big time, and we wave the Bloodgood flag, and we actually have a history together. We, pre-Oz being a part of some of the recent stuff, we played with Bloodgood way back in the day, and we really enjoyed our time with them. Not only their talent and their sound, but just their personalities and them as people. And we just thought they were the coolest guys. They're so humble. There's no rock star ego attitude at all. And we came across that a lot with a lot of Christian bands. It's like they had bigger egos than when we played with Dio and some of these other bands. And it's like, wow, something's twisted here backwards. But Bloodgood, that was never the case with Bloodgood, ever.
I was just going to say that, it's interesting when you talk about that signature sound. As I'm raising my kids, of course, I'm raising them in the 80s, even though they don't, realize that. But when I play music, I always play an intro to a song and I say, guess who this is? And so it doesn't take them long, whether it's your solo or Stryper, when they hear that signature at the very beginning, they're like, I know who that is. So that's your signature voice. Yeah.
And some people say, man, dude, all right, we get it already. Enough of the intro scream, and it's like, here's the thing with that, especially regarding Stryper, that's my signature thing.
Yeah.
If it annoys people, then maybe they shouldn't be listening to Stryper. But I mean, that's part of who I am and what I do in that band. And if it fits, it fits. If it doesn't, I don't do it all the time. But when it's a metal track, come on now, you gotta get one of those in. And I just did an album, this inspirational worship album, where there's maybe just one scream or two screams on the whole album, but you're not going to hear that, you know, and it might throw people for a loop. They may not know who it is singing, which is kind of cool.
So I want to circle back into the Sunbomb, the Evil and Divine. So I wrote a review of it for our website, and for me, this is an album you just put on when you just want some good metal. Today was one of those days. I was driving home from work, and I just wanted to listen to some good basic metal, and man, this fits the bill. And there's range there though. I mean, there's a little bit melodic stuff. You got something a little bit 80s sound there. Definitely a couple of dark, sludgy kind of songs. Even not lyrically speaking, but musically, a little sleazy sound, which
a ballad.
Oh, you got the ballad on there. I'm going, this is so good. What was it like for you? Really, my understanding of it and things I've read that you've said and other places, you didn't do production, you didn't do guitars, you really didn't do a lot of the writing of the lyrics. Am I correct about that?
Basically, Tracy wrote all the music and sent all the music to a guy named Mitch. And for the, gosh, I'm gonna kick myself because I can never remember his last name. But you know, he's a very well-known writer and based in New York. And Mitch wrote the melodies and the lyrics. But what happened was the lyrics got sent to me. I was in bed with Lise one day, and I got the file and I opened it up, and it was called Witches. And I started reading the lyrics, and I'm like, I thought it was April Fool's, but it wasn't even close to April Fool's. We were like way past April Fool's. And it was about burning witches. And it was basically, a historical account kind of lyric. So it wasn't a bad thing, but it was still a lyric that I felt totally uncomfortable singing. And I just felt like, no, I can't sing this. This is crazy. I'm going to alienate my fan base. So I got the next lyric and very similar. The next lyric kind of more similar. So I reached out to the guys and I said, guys, these lyrics have to be, I'm sorry to tell you this, but these lyrics have to be, rewritten. So it took a while to get that into motion. And they wound up I offered to rewrite the lyrics, but the label already had a deal with the in-house producer, Alessandro, regarding producing and publishing and whatnot. So they got sent to Ali, and then he rewrote the lyrics, which I was totally fine with. He sent them to me, and Ali gets me, Alessandro. He gets me. He knows what I do and where I go. He sent me the lyrics, and I'm like, yeah, perfect. Great. And the only thing I did was I reconstructed the lyrics because there was a little bit of a language barrier because he's Italian.
Okay.
And, I'm American, and there's that English to Italian thing was happening a little bit. So I rewrote lyrics here and there and retweaked melodies here and there. So we all wound up writing the stuff together. It was a 4-way write on all the songs just to keep it simple. And that was very gracious of Tracy to do that, actually, because he could have taken 50% and the other 50% be split 4 ways. I thought that was really stand up of him to do and admirable. But man, it's one of those things where I don't really take a project on with that in mind. Even though I'm the primary writer for Stryper and I'm the exclusive writer for me, I'm open to co-writing. If it's good stuff and the writing is good, I'm totally open to co-writing. I've done that before. So it was no big deal. And to not play guitar, most people don't even know that I play guitar anyway. And that's kind of my view. That's kind of my outtake lately is just like, who cares? I mean, who cares if I play guitar on it or not? It doesn't really matter because most people aren't even going to notice.
Now you mentioned a couple of times this the Worship album that's coming out, and I'm sorry, that's coming out. Is that coming out this year?
That is, well, I don't think so.
Okay.
We're basically, it's getting sent out tomorrow, according to in the moment right now, tomorrow, to a number of labels who are interested in hearing it.
Oh.
And it's a whole different world for me. It's not going to be Rat Pack or Frontiers.
Okay.
You know, we're talking to all the major, CCM labels and whatnot, and they're very interested in hearing it. It's a really great album. I hate to say this. I mean, as excited as I am about any album I work on, I'm probably most excited about this album because it's so different for me, and it's new territory and new ground, and I like breaking new ground, and this album is that. Now the diehard metalheads may not get it, but there's some material on it that they'll raise an eyebrow to in a good way. Like there's a song called "By His Stripes We're Healed" that's heavy. It's more rock, but it's not metal. There's nothing metal on the album. There's some stuff that's more 70s and kind of just more radio friendly, and it's a worship album, but it's not. It doesn't sound like any other worship album you've ever heard in your life.
Okay.
So I'm excited about it, man. I really am.
Same with that, because I wanted to come back to that as well. How would you compare what you did with this with what you did with the album Hymn that you came out with? Gosh, what was that, back in the early 2000s?
Yeah, well, that was a lot of fun, and that was cool. And what Hymns was more of a high quality demo. So I did a lot of that on my own, and then went to Kenny Lewis's and finished it. But there was less money put into that, and more of just a labor of love. And this is that as well. This new album, I funded it. It was a labor of love, but I put more money into it and hired and worked with a named producer, programmer, producer, mix engineer, Jeff Savage. And it really sounds like a record. You know, it sounds fantastic. When you listen to it, the bass is right. It's fat. It's like you put it on, it's like, wow. I mean, it sounds so good. So I'm really excited about that. So that's the difference between it. And then musically, I think it's stepped up a couple of bars from Him. Not that Him is a bad album, but this is a better album.
Well, because Him, you basically were reworking classic hymns.
Right.
So some music was already out there and you were reworking it.
Yeah, I reworked the old hymns, and it was something I always wanted to do. Some of those old hymns would put me to sleep in the pew, you know what I mean? Yeah. And reworking them kind of woke me up, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I had fun doing it. But these are all original songs on this new album. There's not a cover. I wrote everything, and every song's different. So you have a song like "By His Stripes We're Healed," like a mid-tempo rockin' tune. And then you've got a song on there that, it's almost got like a 70s, like a Carly Simon, James Taylor vibe to it. Ooh. I mean, it's a throwback album in a really cool way. And the tones are warm, and it kind of takes you back to the 70s and the 80s in a really cool way. And it was all about the songs. I did a lot of harmonies on there that might remind you at times of, the Bee Gees on maybe one song, or the Beatles, or even like a Motown, like three African-American women singing them. It's like, that's Michael, I did a lot of cool, interesting, experimental stuff on this album. That's really exciting.
Nice.
And I'm playing all the guitar on it. Go figure.
So if we hear guitar on this album, we'll know it's you.
Jeff had to talk me into it, Jeff Savage, because I was going to have someone else play all the solos. Because that's just been my thinking lately. Not to have anyone break out a violin, but it's just like my thinking lately. I kind of go there first. If when I'm doing a solo album, it's like, oh, I'll get another guitar player. Because it's like, I don't know, maybe I feel a little defeated as a player. I have no idea. But he talked me into doing it. He said, dude, you got to play those solos. So I did. And I'm glad I did. you know, and they turned out really well. And it's just that I have a very unique sound as a player too. Mm-hmm. So when you hear me playing a solo or playing a rhythm part, it instantly makes it sound a little more Stryper, you know, and I can't really get away from that.
That's great. So you have so many things you're working on, and you mentioned the Hoekstra Nathan James thing. That's coming on as well. And then I believe you said that after that you're going to be working on the next Stryper album. Is that
yes? Basically, I start writing. Well, I just started today writing lyrics for an Alessandro Michael Sweet album. Like I said, it's going to be kind of in the Journey Toto wheelhouse. And then after that's finished, I sing that in July. And then we move. We're relocating, and then after that, I start on another Sweet and Lynch album. So I don't know if I mentioned that or not, but I'm going to be doing that around November.
Wow.
And then in December, I start writing the Stryper album, and then we start recording that in January.
Okay. A third Sweet and Lynch album.
Yeah, I said it couldn't be done, and here it is. The reason why, I'll tell you that, I'll be totally brutally honest about that. Two reasons why I didn't want to really do it is because I felt like I was the only one promoting it. I didn't feel like the other side was promoting it like it should have been promoted. So after 2 rounds of that, I was like, no, that's not going to fly. Not in my world. Everyone better promote it or forget it. And, you know, that's the thing I really like about Tracy is Tracy's promoting it. And, you know, you got to really, everyone has to post and work. And if that's not happening, then get out. So that was number one. And then number two, the budget. I produced the first 2. And I like to do things a certain way with certain people in certain studios. And in order to do that, it's got to be a certain amount to get it done. The Frontiers wanted to bring that budget down considerably. So the only way we could do that, and we had to rework the deal, is I'm co-producing it now with Alessandro. I'm co-writing everything with George, co-producing with Alessandro, but the drums and bass are going to be tracked with other players at a different place. So I'm not doing as much work, but I'm still just as involved, and it's going to be a third Sweet Lynch album. And, you know, I think it's going to be awesome. It's going to turn out killer, and it's going to be different from the first 2, which is cool. I think that's a good thing, and it'll have its own signature. It's exciting.
Well, listen, I think a lot of people love both the 2 that are already out there. For my money, Walk was just phenomenal. A phenomenal track. Oh my goodness. That's probably my favorite track off of both those albums. Anything in the works that might be as ambitious as Walk?
I would think certainly that's a high possibility. I mean, and you're in the minority, believe me.
Really?
A lot of people didn't seem to like or get Walk.
Oh my word! That was...
you know, they wanted Dying Rose on repeat. You know, 11 tracks that sounded like that. And I get it. That's a great song. But yeah, Walk was certainly very different and more of a groove oriented Queen meets who knows. And it was interesting, but cool. And I'm sure we will work on having some songs on this next album that rival that are, very unique and different out there in a cool way.
Just another dream or reality. What could we expect from all of this? Are we leaving something out for the sea? Yeah, it's all been said and done.
One of the things I wanted to ask here, as we're wrapping things up here, Michael, is that Steve and I have talked about how you definitely have a way of engaging with the fans many artists aren't able to do or don't do. Him and I just look back in history, and I see the time when you retweeted my article, and he sees the time when you retweeted his Latin Stryper devotional, and that means something to a fan, and we see you all the time engaging with fans, using social media, especially during COVID. What is the motivation to engaging with fans? Because not every artist does that. Other artists with big names, they'll put something out there and that will get just a few likes and that's it.
Well, it's a few things, a few sides to that story. First of all, I tried, if I could, I would engage with every fan. I literally would. It bothers me that I can't. And so much so that sometimes I lose sleep over it. Like, I'll lie in bed and I'll remember something someone posted and it'll be going through my head like, dang, I should have responded to that. And the reason why I feel that way about it is because that's my heart. My heart is to do this for the fans, with the fans, by the fans. And that's why I feel God gave me these talents and abilities in this platform, is to reach the fans. So it's all about them. It's not about me. It's not about Michael Sweet. It's not about Stryper. It's not about Sweet Lynch or Sunbomb. It's about the fans. And it's cliche and repetitive as that may sound, it's the God honest truth. And, I do my best to reach all the fans, but when I don't, man, I hear about it. There are some fans out there that go nuts and, they'll literally say, I'm done with you. I'm unfollowing you. And it's like, you can't please everybody. Mm-hmm. And I'll set people straight too. I don't have a problem doing that because that's the way I'm built. I'm a very tell it like it is, be honest kind of person. And if you came here and hung out at my house and had dinner with me, you would learn that, know that, but it's always in a respectful way. Mm-hmm. I'm a no BS kind of guy. Yeah. And I prefer that in other people as well. Tell me if my vocal sucks. Don't tell me it's good and then go tell everybody else that it sucks. Mm-hmm. I can't stand that. So it's all about the fans, man. And the social media platforms have made it, very easy to reach the fans and to, stay in touch with the fans and keep them up to date. And I do my best to do everything that I can. And I hope I've proven that. There's a lot of people out there, I won't name names, but the fans think they're talking to them and they're talking to their secretary or they're talking to their photographer.
Yeah. Or it's taking over the account. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm literally watching the correspondence just going, wow, if they only knew.
So with the fact that COVID, we're all getting the sense that COVID's coming to an end. We're hoping so. Will we see you on stage soon? live?
Yes. I mean, we're doing a few shows this year in the States right before we do the Chris Jericho cruise. That's in October. And we might be doing, you'd have to fly across the water to get to Puerto Rico, but we might be doing a Puerto Rico show, but that hasn't been confirmed. And, you know, we're not doing a whole lot this year. We're doing a live at Spirit House. The guys are coming out here in about 2.5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do another round of Soldiers Under Command and an acoustic set. That's going to be awesome. We're releasing To Hell with the Devil in just a few weeks. I mean, actually a little longer than that, 3 or 4 weeks. And we're not doing a lot of live shows, but next year I can tell you this, everyone else and his brother is doing live shows. It's a dog eat dog competitive world out there right now. I'm seeing all these shows pop up and I'm like, oh man, I wouldn't want to be a part of that. But man, next year, I think it's a good thing and a smart thing that we're holding out. We're going to go out and tour heavily next year. And I think that the people who are going to come out, we're going to have some amazing shows and some incredible tours.
Wow. Yeah. Well, Steve, we need to check our budget and get that Wild Man and Steve plane taken care of so we can follow him to Puerto Rico.
Absolutely, yes. We'll hop on the Lear jet and.
Yes, absolutely. You guys got to come out and see us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We'll do it. Absolutely. No question. This has been great. We want to again just thank you for your time. And ladies and gentlemen, check out Sunbomb. You will love the album. And you know, it's hard to state what people should get into with you because there's just so much coming out. But I would just say this is that everything that Michael does, whether it's Stryper, solo, or collaboration, or as we're anticipating this worship album, a super group, whatever, it's always great. It's always great. We know you always put your best effort forward. We can tell that. It's not anything you're just haphazardly doing out there.
I try, man. And I would never release, you know, second best. I can't do it. It's just not in me. And I'm a perfectionist and a stickler for, you know, quality. And if it's not up to par, man, I don't want to release it. I just don't. Yeah. So you can definitely count on the fact that whatever I am a part of, that I'm gonna give my best. You know, if it's me just singing on an album, I'm gonna try to sing my best and do my best and give my best performance. Some people might not agree with that with Sunbomb because it's more of a raw approach. I didn't over perfect the vocal tracks or layer or double or, you know, I did some, but not a lot. There's not a lot of harmonization and whatnot going on and multi-track. So I wanted to be cautious of that and just keep it raw, almost like it's a live band playing. We could go out and pull that album off because it's very simple. There's not a lot to it. Yeah. So to circle back around with the final question tonight, it's simply this. At the beginning, you said that it almost became Guns N' Moses. And we kind of threw that question out there. Do you have an answer for where Sunbomb came from? I don't. Tracy, I think, wound up throwing the name out there, and I dug it, you know, and it was just based on, you know, that cross pertaining to the sun. And then we started finding images of, you know, solar sun bombs, so to speak, solar blast, and it's just that the power of the music is supposed to represent that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, whoa, like opening your blinds in the morning, like, whoa, there's the sun. Oh my gosh, it's too bright. Close the blinds. That's kind of what this album's supposed to be.
It certainly is that, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't heard it yet, look it up, Sunbomb. It's all available on all platforms, and it's also available, wherever you get your music today. You can get that. So, Michael, once again, want to thank you for coming on. We know you're a busy man. We'll let you get back to work. Any final message you have for our listeners or fans out there?
Oh, gosh, thank you guys for all the undying support day after day, year after year. And I would not be sitting here talking to you guys without the support. I wouldn't be able to make record after record after record. And I'm very blessed. I'm going to be 58 years old coming up in, a little over a month. And I hope that I've got another at least 12 years in me, Lord willing, if I'm alive and breathing here on the planet Earth. I would love to. I think in the next 12 years, I could put out another 24 albums, a couple a year. And that might be an all-time record in terms of solo albums and Stryper albums. I mean, my goal is to get to 21 Stryper albums and 21 solo albums. And then 21 project albums.
Okay.
So I don't know where I'm at right now. I think I'm at 11 on the solo, maybe 12 with this new one. I'm pushing 12 if you count Reborn. Stryper's at like 13. So I got a ways to go. I've got 7 and 8 in each department there. And then with all the other projects, I've probably got another, 14 to go. So it's doable. Mm-hmm. And I would say at that point in time, it might be time for me to just get on a Harley, buy a Harley, get on a Harley, smoke a couple cigars a day, drink at least one bourbon a day, and just enjoy life and start fishing, go barefoot, skydive, become a pilot, do all those kinds of things.
Yeah. Well, we've all noticed that you do not age at all. So I don't see any issue with you.
I do age. I'm getting older like everybody else. But, again, it's all, so much of it is mental. If you tell yourself, I'm old, you're going to be old. Words are powerful, just believe that you're young and you'll always be young.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, thanks again, sir. And we look forward to everything else you're going to bring us here in the future.
All right, guys, you're awesome. Thanks for having me, and I will see you soon.
It was great to once again interview Michael Sweet. He has accomplished so much, with a plan to continue to do more. From Stryper to his solo career, Sweet and Lynch, and now with Sunbomb, and many more to go. Throughout all of this, he has made it a point to engage with his fans. He is always trying to connect and be available for all who follow him. This reminds me of how Christ does this for all of us. As the King of Kings, he left his throne so we could have relationship with him. And Christ is bigger than Michael Sweet. In fact, he's bigger than any famous person you can think of. Today I ask you to simply say, Jesus, reveal yourself to me, and he will be faithful to do so. The Wild Man and Steve Show is now partnering with New Release Today. Find out more about them at newreleasetoday.com. And don't forget to check out our website, where you can also leave us a review at wildmanandsteve.com. Thank you for listening, everybody, and we will see you next time.